are talking about the movie Joker today in our review. So, Lauren, since you are giving us that face, why don't you start by telling us the general synopsis of the movie, Joker, 2019.
Well, how that y'all know that I'm like the worst with spoilers, so alright, I guess I gotta be fucking pick and choosy with my words. Well, the new film Joker that it came out October 4th, 2000s of the 19s. It was about a man named Arthur Fleck who had a lot of mental illnesses and neurological problems. And he discovered a lot about his life, and not only was he discovering a lot about his life, but he was also discovering that he was very depressed. And he had a specific job which portrayed him as a clown because the number one thing that he wanted to do was to make people laugh. He wanted to entertain, he wanted people to love him, he wanted people to know him. However, that happened, but with a weird, dark twist, and it ended up being very, what's the word I'm looking for? It ended up being very, I don't want to say dark and twisted again, but that's really the only way to describe it.
Alright, so Ivan, you have described this movie on your Instagram as being really good, and given how you hate most comic book movies with a fiery passion, that's kind of unique. So what was it about Joker that you really liked, given how you're not a fan of the comic book genre?
Hell, I bet I already know his fucking answer.
What do you think my answer is then?
The fact that it wasn't anything comical, anything about the comics at all. It was literally real life shit.
Well, yeah, like that's like one of the things that I went into it with. And one of the things that I appreciated about the movie was just like how the color palette was. Like the color palette looked like this really grimy, had this really great New York feel to it. And I really like that over like more of like a theme park colorful ride that a lot of the Marvel movies are, and like that's fine if they are like that, but for my only personal taste, like going into a movie like Joker, I want to see, and for understanding like who the character is and like the environment surrounding the character, I really like want to see all of that pop out within like the really dense grime, low color palette, and also like the realism as well. It felt like a real life. It wasn't like something that like pops out as like a big spectacle, and that's one of the biggest things I took away from this film.
So Joker is a film that was directed by Todd Phillips and stars Joaquin Phoenix, and both the directing and the acting are just phenomenal here. I wasn't surprised by Joaquin Phoenix because he's an incredible actor, but his performance is like honestly Oscar-worthy. He plays such a great range of this character, but also the directing is really great with Todd Phillips. Like the cinematography is really well done. I thought a lot of the choices narratively were great. Coming from the guy who made The Hangover, it was
this wasn't supposed to happen. Like I didn't expect the guy who made The Hangover and Old School and other comedy movies throughout his long career to make a movie like this, and it turns out it was a really great surprise.
I think in general this movie was kind of a surprise. I remember seeing the first trailer for it like several months ago and thinking to myself, okay, I mean that could be good.
Really?
I just knew how like there's been so many of these DC movies that have attempted to be gritty, and especially after Suicide Squad, I was just like,
I don't think this movie falls into the same vein as the DC universe though. As like the Suicide Squad, the Justice League.
What I'm saying is it's a DC property that was going for a dark and gritty approach, and typically that just doesn't go well, Mr. Christopher Nolan. So I was thinking when I first saw the trailer, I was like, I'm cautiously optimistic, but I wasn't expecting it to be phenomenal. I was like, maybe it'll be good, but I don't know yet. I wasn't sure. And then I started seeing some more trailers for it, and I'm like, okay, I knew production value-wise, like the cinematography looks great, and from an artistic standpoint, it looks great, but just because it looks good doesn't mean the story is going to be good or the script is going to be good. And I was completely blown away by how well it was done, how three-dimensional they made his character, given how, like, in the past he's been a very interesting villain, but being able to take a very good villain and turn them into an extremely interesting protagonist is a very hard thing to do. I haven't really seen it done very well in many other movies, but they really nailed it here.
It's interesting, like, you see, like, Arthur Fleck Joker, like, and like, in a general sense, just first looking at him and the way he acts, morally, he's a really awful character, but then you see, within this film, there's a much more of a deep dive into his personal life, and you get more of an introspective feel of who he is as a person and why he becomes the way he does, and even, like, I would personally say, like, there's a sense of, like, sympathy for him in this film.
Yeah, it's funny that you say that.
Oh, absolutely.
The friend group that I had went to see the movie with, they all said that they felt bad for him, like, for the Joker through the whole movie. Like, oh man, it's not bad that he did what he did. It's because of the fact that he was just treated so poorly.
Well, the movie literally starts with him having to pick a bunch of kids, and he's just trying to do his job. He's just trying to get by. He's not inherently a selfish person or someone that you root against. I mean, the very first scene in the movie, it's even been shown in the trailers. I don't really think it's a spoiler. I do think we should try to lean away from the spoilers early on in this review. We can get to them at the end, but because this movie just came out, I know a lot of people have been really excited about it. I don't want to spoil it right away.
I feel like I'm doing really good about not spoiling anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, for real. So, I mean, really, though, I just thought, this movie, they really managed to make him interesting from the beginning. He's sympathetic, but he's sympathetic in a way where, and I think this is where some of the controversy with this movie surrounding it comes in. You sympathize with him in that you really think, okay, it's like this. You understand exactly why he does what he's doing. There's no jump in logic. There's no, oh, he was just a regular, decent guy, and then one day he just snapped. A lot of these stories are. It's not like that. You totally understand it, and it builds throughout the film. All these bad things that happen to him, they build. He starts doing bad things, and he starts enjoying it, and he starts changing and releasing, like, his inner demons in a way. And the thing is that they make it really work, and it's really well done, and it's tastefully done. It's not over the top with the violence. But it never justifies what he does. It never says, oh, yeah, like, he totally should just go kill people. No, it doesn't justify it. It just shows you why he does it. And also, I feel like the message overall was just treat people well, treat other people well. Your actions have effects on other people's lives, and that can, in turn, create how they become in their own life. So it's really important to watch how you treat other people, because someone like this could turn out a certain way because of the way you treated them. What were you saying, Nolan?
I said I think it's more than just that. I think there's more to the message than just treating people well. Like, in my opinion, not only do I feel like one of the messages to the story is to treat other people well, but I feel like this movie is kind of portraying, like, we as people, it's kind of like a reflection of the crap that we have been going through now. A clown being the symbol of this riot that has started up throughout the city because of one specific asshole that was just spouting crap that, he thought, in quotations, that he knew what he was doing, but in the end it was all just, for the money, all about the government. But with this, it's like, I guess with the way that the movie is, they wanted them to see, like, how ugly it can be, how ugly it has been.
Well, I think what's so brilliant about this movie particularly is there's so many layers of the social commentary to where I really do feel like it was made in a way, or it was written in a way where it's very easy to project what's going on right now politically into this story, but at the same time, it's also kind of standalone in that it doesn't. It's not a direct tie-in. It's very ambiguous in a way. You can kind of project real life events onto what's happening, but even in the film, spoiler alert for this one line, but it's important to my point is that later on in the film, the Joker says, I'm not political. I'm not doing this for political reasons. I'm just doing this because that's how people have made me feel. That's what society has driven me to do, and this is this is how I'm expressing myself. But he's not trying to lead a political revolution, but his actions are leading to other people creating a political revolution around him.
Right.
And so it's almost I feel like a meta commentary on the fact that this movie in and of itself is just a movie, but the controversy surrounding it and all the people talking about it and what it means is people projecting their own views and their own connections to what's happening nowadays onto it. And in the same way, the movie is about people projecting their beliefs and their struggles that they're already going through onto this one guy who decides to act out of his own self-interest.
Y'all are way better with your words than I am. That was pretty
was good.
what I was getting with.
Yeah, no, I was agreeing. Yours was good. Like it was really like spot on.
So Ivan, what is your interpretation of the social commentary aspect of this film?
Just basically kind of exactly like what y'all were saying. I mean, it was just really about, basically almost exactly what you were saying. The only thing I would really add in there is just there's the divide between like the rich and the poor class. That happens.
If you're rich, then you're gonna make it. But if you're poor, you ain't getting shit.
Yeah, which is like a lot, which is heavily like what happens in the real world, but like it's much more heightened in this movie, obviously. And it is really kind of like, and also when you do tie in mental health issues as well, there are lots of poor, I don't want to say poor, I want to say like a lot of like underprivileged people here in America that do go through different troubles, and that's all due in partly by mental illness. And it really does stem back with the character of the Joker, who uses his clown mask to kind of hide this with his happiness. And then the character of Arthur Fleck is the one who actually has all these mental problems going on in the film. So I think it really just relates in a big way to like that divide and like how it affects Arthur Fleck.
Well, it's interesting because you look at comic book movies like Superman from the 1970s, and back then that was the American ideal. That was the American philosophy of that superhero type character, that comic book character. I think the Joker in this film is a very good representation of American culture in 2019. You have a character who is outwardly smiling and forcing himself to smile and laughing, but on the inside he's in complete and utter pain and chaos.
It wasn't forceful. It was, I don't know if you were, sorry, it's another spoiler, but I don't know if you remember, but in the movie, when he's on the bus and he's trying to make the young child laugh, and then the mother's like, please stop messing with my kid, and then he starts laughing because he's upset, and she's like, what the hell are you doing? And he hands her that card, and it says, please don't mind my uncontrollable laughter. It's a neurological illness that I have that I cannot control. So literally, like, the way I interpreted it was like, his laughter was actually tears. And because of the fact that his mental illness had him so fucked up in the brain, instead of crying, he laughed. Because that's what it sounded like to me.
Well, they sort of explain it, and again, I guess we're in spoiler territory right now.
Spoiler warning!
But throughout the film, he talks about, my mother always told me my purpose on this earth was to bring people happiness and make people laugh. Basically, his mother more or less told him, suck up your problems, she just let him be abused by her boyfriend, I guess, when he was a child. That's why he ended up so messed up. And she more or less just made him repress his emotions, and so all he could do was laugh. because he was supposed to be a happy guy, and that's why he got into being a clown, and
That's why his nickname was Happy.
yeah, exactly. I mean, there's just it's very relevant to the culture that we're in. I mean, the fact that mental health is not taken seriously in America by a lot of people, and it's very underfunded. I mean, everything they show in the movie is accurate. You've got, I mean, it's Gotham and it's different, but you've got a character who has extreme mental illness. He's over medicated. He's not getting enough help that he needs from his therapist.
America's cutting all the funds.
Yeah, the fund get cut, and just it shows us as like a warning. And I mean, not even a warning, because this is what really happens. But a lot of these people that act out in society, that act like terrorists, they usually have mental health problems, and they're not being treated for it, and then they get access to weapons. You know, they kind of show that in like his coworker that gives him the gun. You know, someone who should not have a gun is given a gun, and then these kind of things happen. So, I mean, not to get on a political thing for this, but just in general, you can't ignore the fact that this type of stuff happens, and it's very relevant to what is happening right now, and the fact that right now the media is trying to portray this movie as dangerous or harmful really says a lot about the fact that we don't, or at least the media does not want us as a culture to address what is the fundamental issue that we're dealing with.
Well, this is another spoiler warning as well. Spoiler, just saying that. Well, one of the things is like going back to the gun. I think the gun itself is kind of acting like a character in the movie. I know it sounds kind of like a big statement, but literally like almost every single climactic moment that happens in that movie, well, the climactic moment that happens in that movie is done through the gun, where he shoots the 3 Wall Street men on the train, and then the media in that movie is reporting on their deaths, and then there's a line, I forget which character says it, I think it's the woman who's played by Zazie Beetz, I think, or how you pronounce it. But
Zazie Beetz, I think? I don't know.
Yeah. But she kind of plays the Joker's...
Can I make one quick point on what you said, Ivan? I just want to add something.
Yeah, go ahead.
The gun, spoiler alert, he only ever uses the gun, I noticed, he only ever uses the gun when he shoots someone who's like more privileged than him, like a rich person. But the other people who he murders throughout the film that are poor or not rich are killed in other ways. So I wasn't sure if that was done on purpose, but the only people he kills with the gun are people that are part of that upper class.
He's also killed people who did it wrong, because he let the little guy go.
Yeah.
Yeah, he only kills people that have wronged him. Until, of course, well, we'll get into the ending later.
I think he kind of wronged him in a way. But, like, we'll get into it later.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, we are getting towards the end of our review, so let's talk about the ending. Ivan, you just talked about, sort of set it up a little bit with the gun thing, so why don't you tell us what happens in the big climactic moment? If you haven't seen the movie yet, please go see it before you listen to this, because this is a big spoiler.
Please go see it before this.
Scene. So Ivan, talk a little bit about the talk show and what leads up to that, and what happens.
So, in the world, there's a talk show called The Murray Franklin Show, which is kind of like a late-night TV talk show. And Murray Franklin is played amazingly by, I don't use amazingly lightly, like amazingly by Robert De Niro. I thought he was fantastic. But he's a late-night talk show who basically talks about different things that are going on in the city, different jokes, like basically what late-night talk shows talk show hosts do. Don't know why I can say that. But he goes and plays a clip of Arthur Fleck performing at a comedy club, and he's just bombing, and he makes fun of him. And the TV show calls Arthur Fleck a couple of days later saying, hey, do you want to be on the show? And so he goes on the show, has his Joker makeup on, asks to be called the Joker when he's introduced. And he basically sits down, tells some really, really awful jokes, admits to the killing of the 3 Wall Street men, and then he just flat out shoots Murray Franklin in the head.
And he also has a great speech that leads up to it.
Yeah.
Where he just sort of calls out the rich people in Gotham, and a big aspect of the film is Thomas Wayne, Batman's father, is running for mayor. It was mayor, right?
Yes, he's not mayor yet. He's running.
Yeah, he's running for mayor. He's kind of a Donald Trump-esque figure, not exactly one-to-one, but you can kind of tell there's a little bit of that there.
You know what's funny about that? Sorry.
He's saying he's gonna make Gotham great, but he's just shitting all over the poor people who call him clowns. What is it, Ivan?
You know what's funny about that when you say when you mention the word Donald Trump figure in a way is because I remember I saw this with my mom in the theater, and she doesn't really know much about like comic books and superheroes and stuff like that, and so I was explaining to her like, yeah, that's Thomas Wayne, and that little kid is Batman. And she's like, oh, it is? I have no idea. And then I was like, and she was like, who's Thomas Wayne? And I was trying to like explain it in a way she would understand. So I was like, yeah, he's kind of like this big, like, rich figure kind of guy, kind of like a Donald Trump in Gotham City. So it's really funny and interesting you say that.
Basically, Arthur or Joker calls him out, and he talks about like how the poor are mistreated. He's like, he says, if those three guys had killed me, you would have stepped right over my body. You wouldn't have even noticed me because I'm poor. But because they were rich and they worked for like the equivalent of Wall Street, it was such a big deal. You actually cared what happened to them, and it's a really great scene. Like that whole climax of the film is fantastic. And then after he shoots Murray in the head, it's like live televised. The movement of the clowns that like they basically take over the city, and it's complete anarchy. And first Joker is arrested, but then the mob frees him, and he ends up getting to see just like the destruction he's caused, and he's so happy because he has felt so invisible his whole life, and now he feels like he's had an impact in the world. Even though it's a terrible impact, he's had an impact, and that to him matters. So then we get the scene, which is basically the Batman origin scene we've seen him many times, but this time it was really well done. One of the clown mob members goes up and he shoots Thomas Wayne and shoots Martha Wayne, and Bruce Wayne is just left there to look at them. And
that's how Batman
it sets up possible Batman movie with this Joker. I don't know.
Who knows?
See them do something with it, but either
like
way,
that young Robert Pattinson.
Yeah, I'd be down for that. I mean, just make the next Batman movie Robert Pattinson as Batman, and then just make Joaquin Phoenix look a little older and have him be the Joker, escaping Arkham Asylum.
I'd be down for that.
There you go.
Joaquin.
Yeah, it'd be. I mean, it might be if they were to do it right and have maybe Todd Phillips either direct or have some influence over the film. I really think that it could rival the Nolan films.
Is it just me?
Just depends how well it's done.
Is it just me, or did this movie have a little bit of a Tarantino vibe to it?
The one scene only okay. Spoiler again.
The blood splatter is kind of Tarantino.
Yeah, I'll say that. That was the only scene where I was like, yeah, this is kind of like Once Upon a Time.
Well, I was thinking more so the fact that like the biggest climax, everything intense was like the last 20 minutes of the movie, and then it was just done over.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, I guess it's kind of like.
What's that?
No, I was gonna say like I understand what you're saying. Like I completely get the perspective, but I feel like Tarantino's really only done that infamously now for like Once Upon a Time. Because I guess like the last like.
It was pretty suspenseful until like the last hour.
Yeah.
And then Wolf of Wall Street, it was good.
Wolf of Wall Street wasn't Tarantino.
Director, my bad.
That was Scorsese. No, that was Scorsese.
Oh, well, I'm retarded.
Also, okay, speaking of Scorsese, what is up with the fact I originally heard when this movie was announced that Scorsese was going to direct or produce or something, and then he has like nothing to do with this movie. They check all the credits and he's not in there at all. So I know Taxi Driver and some of his other movies kind of inspired this film a bit, but is there any connection to Scorsese with this film?
I don't think so. I never heard of any. I mean, I'm looking it up right now to see.
The internet makes up almost everything. It's also almost true. The internet is an angel but a devil.
So, guys, I think one aspect that we need to address with this film is the fact that Joker is a really huge character in pop culture. I would say, in a way, not originally, but nowadays, I'd say he's actually a bigger cultural phenomenon than Batman in terms of just like iconic characters that are in the pop culture sphere constantly. So, comparing him to some of the more recent adaptations, your Heath Ledgers or your Jared Leto's, where would you say Joaquin Phoenix kind of ranks? We all kind of know we all kind of know where Jared Leto ranks, but what's your thought?
Heath Ledger. Heath Ledger's number 1. Joaquin is number 2. I haven't seen any of the other Batman movies.
Really?
I haven't seen the Jack Nicholson one.
Nicholson's pretty good.
Nicholson's pretty good.
Did a good job. Nicholson gave him a very vintage vibe.
Okay. I'm sure Nicholson did a better job than Jared Leto.
I would kind of say that Nicholson and Jared Leto kind of fall in the same category of the type of Joker, and that he's like a gangster kind of character. And he only ends up really becoming Joker because he falls into a vat of chemicals. Whereas the Heath Ledger Joker and the Joaquin Phoenix Joker are in a different category, I would say, because they're more of the sort of anarchist, tragic backstory with a. He more like becomes the Joker because of society.
Almost like an emo 13-year-old.
Yeah, I think you could divide like these film Jokers, these live-action film Jokers, into almost like 2 different categories when it comes to those actors. Lauren, what would you rank the Jokers? We could say we'll do the 4 most recent, like Nicholson, Ledger, Leto, and Phoenix.
Same as Ivan. Ledger's number 1, forever and always. The Dark Knight, he killed it with that shit. That was just phenomenal. Joaquin's number 2, Nicholson's 3, Leto's 4. And see, the thing about Jared Leto's Joker that was just not as appetizing to me. Jared Leto's Joker, to me, when I watched Suicide Squad when it came out back in 2016, it was, right? I did not like how fake he was. It was like, he had the gangster vibe, but it just reminded me of a little white boy with some problems. Like Jared Leto's Joker, to me, the tattoo, the chuckle, like, it's like, it just seemed like this Joker was just money hungry. Always focused on Harley Quinn, didn't really care about their relationship, They had a shitty relationship in the comics, and they just made them like they were just some kind of fucking king-queen love story, which was stupid. I didn't like that. I didn't like how they portrayed him as some rich gangster. Now, I understand the gangster type of vibe, but he had a bitch boy. Like that was the attitude that I had gotten from Jared Leto's Joker, in my opinion.
Yeah, if it's him versus Nicholson in terms of that gangster Joker,
right?
Nicholson is way better.
It's like they tried to make Joker a pimp in Suicide Squad.
So my Joker rankings would, I think, pretty much the same as yours, Lauren. But I would say it's Ledger, Phoenix, Nicholson, and
plays during the trailer.
So bad. Like,
we all have the same rating.
It's been 3 years and I'm not over that. How bad that laugh was. And then the Joker laugh in this movie was amazing.
Yeah.
Phoenix, he may have even had the best Joker laugh, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, he does. I'll say that he does.
So, guys, now that we've discussed film and given all of our general thoughts,
so many cigarettes smoked.
What would you rate this film?
10 out of 10.
10.
Oh, well, okay. Everyone, that was a fail. I give it a 10 as well. That's probably the first time we've all actually agreed on a score.
No, we all agreed on a score with the Hangover, right? Was it the Hangover or was it Spider-Man?
I forget.
I don't think I was here for either of those reviews.
Yeah, it was just me and Ivan because we're boss-ass bitches.
Thank you everybody for watching the Film Pod. I am JT Doug.
I'm Ivan Lichtenstein.
I'm Lauren, mother effing Gaston. I really need to have some kind of better intro, outro. This is trash.
And thank you for listening, everybody. What did you think of the Joker?
Yes, and
your thoughts in the comment section below.
And if you haven't seen the Joker, go see Joker.
Yeah, go see
Still, what did you think about Joker? I thought it was pretty fucking good, and my mom is the best, and she knows everything. Aw, Lucille.